Johnny, and welcome to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday, 10/10/14.
Yeah, and we're
3 more weeks to Halloween.
it's that time of the year, folks. It's also still 90 freaking degrees here in Texas. My goodness,
do you want your debut? Here, look up there.
She's not going to do it. We have a new puppy, and if anybody's wondering, Bella, and she's quite the attention hound. So if you see a little white flash behind us, it's just a tail. She is Great Dane, so eventually she's going to be walking straight across the screen.
Right.
We did want to thank everybody that was involved in the paraphysical flea market.
Absolutely. What a blast.
Yeah, it was an absolute hoot, and very successful. We're going to be doing it again very soon, I'm sure.
I'm thinking there she went. I'm thinking maybe every 6 months.
Spring and fall?
Yeah.
People in East Texas, go to HHL in the spring and fall, and you can come to the flea market in the spring and fall.
Yes, but we'll do them on different months.
We're doing different months. Yeah. Real quick, remember PEMA TV is always is powered by
Metaluna Boutique and Stones.
Yeah, and if you're located in East Texas, it is your one-stop shop for all your fine fashion and alternative needs.
And we've got some kind of new creepy stuff in there. We've got someone who's making headbands and hair clips and all this kind of stuff for Halloween.
Yeah.
And we've got some little scarves and stuff that would go lovely with costumes. So, hey, if you're looking for costume accessories, we got those too.
And real quick, just like you heard me mention, History, Haunts, and Legends in Jefferson, Texas, November 1st.
November 1st.
So it'll be a Saturday, so the day after Halloween. If you're in East Texas, or even if you're not in East Texas, get in your car and drive and come see us.
And I'm really excited because I finally get to meet in person Stephen LaChance.
And our good friends Rita Louise will be there.
Dakota
Lawrence will be there. Martha Hazard.
No, Martha will not be there.
Martha won't be there?
No, Jeremy Jones will be there. Mitchell Whittington will be there. Kathy Nance will be there.
Selena
Roan will be there. And we will be there. We're all speakers.
But tonight, and we're very excited about this because we really like this lady and we love catching up with her. But tonight we are visiting with our very good friend and author, Miss Deanna Kelly. And Deanna, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you doing? And like you, I am sweltering in this very bizarre North Carolina October heat.
Yeah, like I said earlier when we were off air, I'm blaming Al Gore. This is global warming. We didn't have global warming until he mentioned it. Now he opened Pandora's box, and look what we got.
Right. They say the winter is supposed to be pretty much horrible for 90% of the country, so I guess we ought to appreciate the heat now.
Yeah, let's not speak too soon, right?
Yeah. And just real quick, I'm going to ask because obviously you're much more world traveled than I am. Do they have anything like the Farmer's Almanac in other parts of the world?
No. That's not that I'm aware of. But I'm very fascinated with the Farmer's Almanac because it seems to be quite accurate. I think they must have some psychics on board.
Well, and it's been accurate for years and years and years.
Well, at least a century or two.
Yeah, at least
Because I
anyway.
mean,
Yeah.
the
people who live in like the villagers who live in the village, they can probably read the land and their plants and their crops and have a pretty good idea of what the next season will be like.
Yeah.
Well, where I'm from, it's you read the persimmon seed and the woolly bug.
Yeah, if the woolly bugs are really woolly, then it's...
No, if the darker the woolly bug, if it's black or like a real dark brown going toward black, it's going to be colder than it would be because they start out yellow. And with the persimmon, someone posted it the other day, and they're like, "Is this true?" And it's like, yeah. When you crack a persimmon seed, if it's a fork, it's going to be a dry, mild winter. If it's a knife, it's ice. And if it looks like a spoon, lots of snow.
Yeah. There are lots of spoons here, I heard.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of spoons.
And
I am putting up the link to your blog, too.
Okay.
Because they can find all your books and everything and all the information there, right?
Yes, they can.
They can also find her books at Metaluna Boutique and Stones.
That's right. They sure can. Well, Deanna, the last time we actually saw you was in Shreveport last year.
Wow, it's been a year, more than a year.
A little more than a year.
When you were trapped at the airport, locked in, they wouldn't let you out.
Yeah.
No, I was staying in some old military barrack airport that my aunt had a hangar home in, a hangar apartment. I was literally behind lock and doors and code and everything. It was quite an experience. But I had such a good time in Shreveport, and I'm so glad that you were able to be part of it.
Oh yeah, we wouldn't have missed it for the world. That's something that's very interesting. We've I'm not going to say we've known you as long as we've been involved in the paranormal, but pretty close. There's been a lot of things. There's been a lot of things that have changed in the last few years in the paranormal, in real life, and all kinds of stuff going on for everybody. Has your perspective of the phenomenon that we've been studying changed or broadened or?
That's interesting. I have been thinking of that lately, but probably in a slightly different context than what people would normally associate that with. But yes, I think it's broadened in a sense. When I first started investigating, I had my experiences, and I guess I had some ideas of what I thought this would be, but I never really considered how many potential anomalous experiences could really be out there, and if they're really connected. Like, we go in thinking, oh, something is possibly a ghost, or I think that's what a lot of us think. But then once you get into the paranormal, you realize there's so many other things it could be, not just a ghost or not just someone's imagination, but it could be psychokinesis. It could be literally the manifestations of someone's stress. It could be thought forms. It could be a psychic attack. It's fascinating because, and I've heard this so many times, people say the more you investigate, the more questions you have, because literally it becomes more complex, I believe. Maybe people have stumbled into their own answers, and if so, please inform me. But I think really the longer you do it, the more you have to ponder.
Well, and that's a metaphor for life, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when you're younger, your field of experience is so small and so narrow that, you think you know everything, when in reality, you might know a whole lot, but you only know a whole lot about that much.
Yeah. And, what I've always been really interested in is not if we can really answer the questions, is, are there ghosts? Is there life after death? I don't know if anyone can answer those questions, really. But I'm always curious as to why people start to do this in the first place. And, I don't know if I ever asked you guys how you got started, really. Do you want to give me a short little tiny hour-long version of it?
Because she made me.
Yep.
No, I'm going to be very honest. When I was a young lad and growing up, I was I was kind of the cool nerd, I guess you could say. I played Dungeons and Dragons, which was the only role-playing game back then. You didn't have World of Warcraft. That's back when a personal computer, if you had the Commodore 64, you were the top of the line back then. So I've always been sort of interested in, I guess what you could say, the occult. And that was just from dabbling in Dungeons and Dragons, I guess. Never really had a burning passion for it until I met Kim. And we've had a few very odd experiences. And
she took you over to the dark side.
Pretty much.
It started when the phone rang and I told him who it was, and he argued with me, and after he answered it, he kind of freaked out.
Yeah. But after that, when we actually started investigating a couple of years after that, that's what got me hooked. And really, I still actually have the EVPs, and every now and again when I kind of get, I don't want to say discouraged, but I'll get a little bit taken back by some of the drama and whatnot that's going on Facebook or whatever, or whoever's yelling at whoever. I'll go listen to a few of those.
She's eating paper.
There's nothing quite like that that first EVP or those first few EVPs, I mean, there's nothing. I don't think you can ever duplicate that experience, really, in my mind.
One of our very first our first investigation, like third EVP we caught was of them calling his name and another guy on our team. So that was an automatic hook in his little fishy life.
If I was a bass, I'd have a big scar and a hole in my cheek because I was hooked. And I mean that's the fire and the passion, and like you said, kind of the further down the rabbit hole you go, you end up with more questions than you have answers, and it just snowballs.
Yeah, I think there's something, everybody have their own perspective and their own reasons for coming into this, but I think a lot of it really has to do with people trying to understand their place in the cosmos, trying to understand their metaphysical reality, regardless of what they think metaphysics may be. That's a really huge thing. And I know that we seem to, it has become a little bit of a cliche. I mean, it was a cliche before, but now because of the show, or veneer over it, that a lot of people don't understand just the kind of heaviness. Well, as John Zaffis calls it, the work. And in a lot of ways, it really is a type of spiritual and cultural work. And
Sure.
Regardless of what kind of faith system you come from, because you are dealing with really big questions. I mean, we forget about that when we watch the TV shows because they're fun and their job is to entertain people. But people, who go out and do these things, and parapsychologists, investigators, are looking at really huge questions that I think many philosophers have dealt with throughout history.
That's very true.
Well, see, with me, it wasn't looking for answers. It was proving my mother wrong.
Oh, well, you had an agenda.
Well, of course. But, I grew up in the Midwest. I grew up in the same city where The Exorcist actually started. All that kind of stuff. Zombie Road, all of that. So I've been seeing stuff my entire life. But, of course, I had one of these mothers who it was okay for her to go to the tea leaf readers and, the witch stores and everything else. But if I saw anything, it was my imagination go to sleep. So, it was...
Did she believe you now?
Well, she's been dead 30 years, so she can show up and tell me.
Has she shown up yet?
No.
Yeah.
But, that's something, and please correct me because I know... being the author of Paranormal Obsession, and all the research that went into that, which is this is a great book too, folks. By the way, if you don't learn something from that book, that's all off on you. The thing about it is, haven't you found that most people that are, like you mentioned earlier, in the field now or stay in the field for any length of time, they have a very powerful personal motivation to be there. Most of them have a very unique story. Stephen LeChance is a perfect example. He survived an extremely violent haunting that's been documented by the church and, a whole lot of people that were involved in all of his story.
Well, and it also, she did the work to find out that most of us in this field started having experiences before the age of 12.
Yeah. A lot of people who are drawn to this have had experiences, or they have experienced something they claim to be paranormal, and they think is paranormal at a very young age. And so many people have had these experiences. They don't always label it as paranormal, but so many people have had what parapsychologists call anomalous experiences, which could be seeing someone stand on the edge of your bed in the middle of the night, or it could be knowing who's calling you when the phone rings.
Right.
Well, mine actually was when I was 8 and saw the neighbor lady walking down the street to her house 2 weeks after she died.
Oh, well, that would be kind of creepy.
Actually, it wasn't. It didn't scare me at all. I'm like, hey, Mom, Margaret just walked home. She's dead.
And,
I know she's dead. You're dreaming. Go back to bed. Okay.
You know, you bring up a good point though, and I, in my own experience, when I'm really truly experiencing something paranormal, like it is in my head, and like I have this deep intuitive acknowledgement that this is paranormal. It's not really that scary.
No.
It's kind of, I don't even know how to explain it to people. It's real. You just like, oh, okay.
Well, I found it odd at the time because she was wearing her house coat and her slippers and her glasses and walking down the street, but she was also walking from where the beauty shop was to her house.
So she was dressed. She should have been walking the other way, right? Because the way she was dressed.
Well, she had on one of those old dusters, those blue house coats that snap
Yeah.
up with the slippers, the matching slippers. Yeah. So she shouldn't have been out walking at all, but her hair looked like it had just been finished. So I just took it as she was coming from the beauty parlor and going home.
Well, you know, and this can also, well, much like every other conversation about the paranormal, this will spiral very quickly. This can also get back to the whole point and or the theories about whether people believe in what they call residual. You know, the way the television shows explain it has always been that it's like a tape playing over and over and over the same thing. I have disagreed with that. I've always thought, and the reason I disagree with that is because we've all been through points and times in our life where we've been very institutionalized. You got up at the same time. You brushed your teeth at the same time. You went to the bathroom. You took a shower. You went to work. You were at work 15 minutes early every day. You left work at exactly this time. And you wash, rinse, repeat, weeks at a time, months at a time, sometimes years at a time. So we've all been through that kind of stuff. Why is it so hard to believe that a ghost or a spirit would go through that and just simply be doing that? And you may not see it change, but that doesn't mean you haven't been around in that particular situation long enough. Because I think everybody will agree that time on the other side means very little.
Well,
compared to our reality.
And my theory's completely different too.
Yeah.
My theory is a lot of the places where they claim to see residual is where traumatic things have happened. So, they always catch the lady in the kitchen stirring the pot. Maybe she had a child and the child went out the back door and say 2-3 years old, went out back and drowned in the pond. Maybe she's reliving that, waiting to hear that door slam or a splash or something to try to change what actually happened. With Margaret, the lady who lived next door, I just think they didn't fix her hair right at her funeral, and she was going to have it fixed by who she always got it fixed by.
Yeah. Well, both of you, you have intriguing ideas about it, and both sort of hint to the parallel nature of time in a way. I mean, that's what I'm hearing, that time, and we've heard this before, that whatever's we're doing right now is fine and good, but that this parallel to what's going on. So whatever we're hearing as potentially residual hauntings, it's just someone in a different time just going about their daily business, and we just happen to hear the footsteps when they walk down the hall every morning.
Well, my problem with the whole, it's just like a tape recorder playing over. It's the energies. You always leave an energy footprint in the place. How many places like hospitals? There would be billions of people, not 6.
Yeah.
Not, we have 30 spirits. We have billions because all of them has had their energy footprint embedded in that building.
And if that were the case, what would have? There would be places like, as much as I hate to mention this, there would be places like Auschwitz that you energetically you should be able to walk on the property.
Well, I've heard some people can't. I actually have a personal friend of mine who went to Auschwitz. She was 12 and she didn't know anything about psychic and being sensitive. She could actually see the people there, and she said the worst part of it for her was when she walked in and the smell was so bad, and she didn't know that she was actually picking up on the smell of burning bodies, which nobody else could smell. It was her psychic ability kicking in, and they had to leave because she started to vomit.
And I think that's called clairgustinance, if I'm not mistaken. Augustinus, I think that's either the taste. I think taste and smell are the same thing. I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
I think. But yeah, that's a very strong. That's a very rare and a very strong gift because smell is such a strong sense when you're alive.
Hmm. So I think some people do and some people don't, but I don't, in terms of the residual theory, residual hypotheses, it's so hard to really, I mean, how can you test these things? I think that's one element that's missing in current research is people don't have a site, most people don't have a site to go back and do repeated experiments over and over again in a controlled setting.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
And unfortunately, the few sites that we thought a couple of years ago that we thought would be around for a while and run that way, they've all been shut down or had some kind of drama involved with them.
The Shanley Hotel's still there?
The Shanley is still there, and I mean, after the experiences we had there with David Roundtree and his equipment that at our conference last year, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. I mean, if you believe David Roundtree's theories about that all paranormal events are a wormhole event, and you say wormhole and people automatically think like Star Trek Deep Space Nine and spaceships shooting out of it. But what he's talking about is not happening on an atomic level that large. It's happening on a subatomic level. I mean, we were in a location and there was measurable radiation. There was measurable EMF. The EMF, as it occurred in the room, actually created a heartbeat in the room. It's the easiest way I can explain it. And I know that for a fact because I was in that room. And it actually imprinted on not only me, but Tracy Ray at the time. She was also in the room. And people don't quite get that, I don't think. They talk about how the importance of EMF. Well, if you're in an area and a particular pattern of EMF will imprint on your body enough to where you can walk out of that room and 40 feet down the hall, and you get scanned for your EMF field, and your EMF field is the exact same waveform that was down there. But
isn't that, I mean, in some ways, isn't that very maybe similar to psychic attacks, or when people are sending negative or positive energy to you?
Very true. And that's what David was able to do. That was the first field test for his equipment. And what was cool about it is the equipment he was using, it was called the Quadrilator, and he's since improved it. Basically what it is 4 huge coils that are shielded on one side so they only sense at 270 degrees. So you put them in 4 corners of a square room, and it will completely cover for EMF detection that room, that square area inside of those 4 detectors. But what's neat about it is a millimeter, a K2, anything like that, all it's going to do is tell you that EMF is there. It doesn't tell you where, just tell you that it's happening. David's running all 4 of those coils through a signal processor with proprietary programming, of course. And with that programming, he could tell you where in the room it was happening. Example, he could say, Eric, there's an event happening above your left shoulder. Well, I could reach back with my hand, and not to get woo-woo about it, I was literally sticking my hand through a wormhole event. Now, people will say, well, how could you say that anything was happening? Well, there was no air movement in the room we were in, but there was a partially deflated balloon on the floor. I could reach my hand where David said there was an event happening, point my hand at the balloon, and the balloon would start rocking. Same thing could happen. You could say, Eric, it's happening by your left side. I could reach my hand back. Tracy grabbed my right arm and pointed her hand at the balloon. And I'm not talking a sweeping motion with your hand where the air movement could cause it to move. I'm talking a very slow, deliberate movement and then just pointing with one finger, and then all of a sudden the balloon starts rocking. There's something to it. But David's theory also explains psychic phenomena too, because that is how people that are psychic are simply receiving this information through the same type of wormhole event. But
it seems possible to me.
Yeah, I mean, of all the fields, of all the testing and all the recent research that I've seen, that's one of the few documentable. I mean, all the equipment he used was calibrated. It's one of the very few repeatable type experiments that I've seen done. And like you said earlier, we've reached a point with some people in the field where it's not about whether we're going to get spooked or scared or we're talking to dead people. We're kind of past that. It's the how, the why, the when, where. You asking those 5 hard questions.
I agree with you. I think for me, sort of the standard investigation that many of us have been on many times, going into a location and doing a walkthrough and an EVP session and the baseline EMF reading. I think it's all very interesting, and there's certainly something to that level of investigation. But it's also now a little unchallenging, I think, because you're just not answering enough questions. I mean, you may certainly be able to go into a residential home and with the appropriate historical research and client interview be able to come up with some answers for them. And that's great, but going beyond that, I mean, those kind of investigations just aren't going to take you there. They're just not. And that may be why a lot of people have now turned more towards the legend tripping experience, because it's just kind of easier to do and it's fun. You don't have to really ask the hard questions.
Right. Like I said, there's kind of a line in the sand right now. And believe it or not, there's going to be a new show coming out soon that at least two of our friends that we know of are
October
involved.
19th.
And it premieres October 19th, and we're excited about that because John Tinney's the one that's involved with the show. And John, of all the people, probably second only to you, maybe, is the most integrous person that we know in the paranormal.
Well, thank you. David has his own. I mean, he's involved with the project as well, right?
It's the same one.
It's the same project.
That's what I thought.
It's Ghost Stalkers. It's Ghost Stalkers. I'll give them free advertisement. They can pay me later.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting. I'm curious to see that.
Yeah.
Well, we know for a fact that John's walked away from bigger shows because they wanted him to walk into a house and say, "Oh, it's a demon," and he absolutely refused. Walked off the second episode.
Never looked back. So I mean.
So, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, you guys are a little bit more involved in the community, and I think you probably attend more events than I do, and that kind of thing. So, how would you describe the paranormal community at this moment?
Dramatic.
Disjointed is a good
yes.
word.
A lot of people have got it in their heads.
More so than.
Yeah. More so now than ever before, I would say.
Because now you have a lot of people who have met others like John Tinney and Stephen LeChance who cannot go anywhere without name dropping.
Yeah.
I'm important because I know.
Well, I think everyone knows everyone now. I mean, more or less, right?
To a certain degree, that's true. But a lot of people now have one of the worst phrases that I think, and we were actually I was actually listening to a show that was talking about this the other night. I was producing the show. They were talking about one of the worst phrases that people say, and I hear people spouting this all over Facebook. I'm gifted.
Gifted?
What they're saying is that it becomes my personal experience is always going to be better than your personal experience because I'm gifted.
Oh.
Which is a blanket way of saying, I'm better than you, so don't you say anything or do anything. There's nothing you could possibly say or do that would make you any better than me. You listen to me, and if you don't listen to me, you're no good. I mean, that's where that argument gets started.
And everybody else is catching bugs and dust except for me because I'm gifted and I know where to point the camera to catch the perfect, paranormal orb.
That orb cannot be done.
That's just an infallible argument, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's becoming the go-to argument, and as we both know, I love a lot of the people on Facebook. There's a huge amount of non-thinking sheep out there. And that's where that's where the drama on Facebook comes from, not from the people that are pushing the envelope and trying new things and doing experiments and talking about it on Facebook. That's not where the drama is. The drama comes from the sheep butting heads. The sheep just start butting heads, and then they start talking about, well, Zach was wearing a T-shirt, and I mean, it goes right from there. That's where that line in the sand comes from. And I've said this on here before, and I'll say it now. I would rather have fewer intelligent viewers on this network than to have a million stupid people watching this network. Because I can't change how they think.
Are people still forming new paranormal investigation teams, or now are they doing something slightly different? to get into the community, because before you had to basically, start a team or get on with a team, and that was kind of your initiation. But I think that's shifted a little bit now.
Unfortunately, it has. My problem is a lot of people are now, I do this alone. Number one rule, don't go alone.
Right.
How can you do it alone?
That I don't know. It's
in the sense of going out to a location, I can understand you can experiment in your house with various things, but how can you go out into a location?
Because once again, it goes back to that S word. There's a lot of those people out there, and they do go do this stuff. They go out to a location alone, or they'll take a cell phone and leave it on, and then wonder why their K2's going off all the time. Well, that's because your cell phone's on. It's trying to kick up a signal to a tower every 2 minutes or 3 minutes or whatever.
And then when you sit out there for 6 hours and your battery goes dead, your
It's
phone
battery
goes
drain.
dead. Yeah, it's battery
It's
drain.
battery drain.
Because you heard a cricket at
Right.
the same time the battery died.
Yeah, and then when you question, see, this is the other part, peer review. I'd like to hear your opinion on peer review, because that's the one thing that this entire field lacks. Because when you put something out on Facebook, the trolls are going to attack you. That's the nature of the beast.
Well, and then your BFFs are going to defend you whether they actually believe it or not. So there's this fine line of actual peers who are going, okay, this is what it could be or possibly be, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to do peer review right now, because people, if you want to do real peer review, then people would have to use the same methodologies to collect the data, and that level of thinking, unfortunately, just doesn't really exist among the majority of investigators. So there's certainly some who can and would do that kind of controlled data collection, but there aren't, people just aren't really able to conceptualize research design and methodology. And those who can, it's very hard to do stuff like that, because you can't find a control setting, and you can't get funding to develop, your equipment and go out and test it. It's really, I brought this word up before, this phase. It really is citizen science, and people are doing this out of their pockets and because it's just intellectually fascinating to them. And that's, I don't really know how to go about peer review.
Yeah.
Well, and quite frankly, with the levels we have now, we've gone from ghost hunters to ghost hunters, paranormal investigators, paranormal researchers. The ghost hunters don't want any of us reviewing anything.
Mm.
Well, that's because we might get their show that they were going to get in there. That's the black suburban syndrome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm going to get back to one of the questions you asked me earlier about how my ideas have changed. I think in the beginning, I never disbelieved in psychical ability, but I took sort of the line that, really we have to be very careful with psychics on investigation. Sure. And in general, I do believe that, because everyone claims to be gifted, so you have to be careful.
Right.
But in terms of doing real research, real sort of scientific, peer-reviewed research, I do really value now using using qualified, vetted mediums and psychics.
Sure.
Only because you can control the variables with one living person far better than you can control the variables in a haunted location in terms of research.
That's right. And we've actually talked about this before. The investigator is going to be the next thing that we look at.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to start. The equipment will finally come around, or we'll figure out a way how to modify some I don't want to say biomechanical, because that's not the right word, but some of the bio technical stuff that, the EKGs, the brainwave monitoring, all of that will become portable to the point to where we'd be able to start using it on investigation.
Like the God helmet?
Well, yeah, kind of, sort of. But the God helmet's more of a sensory deprivation kind of Godspell. That's kind of more on that side of it. It's still all part of it, but I was talking more about being able to monitor heart rate, monitor brainwave activity, like a psychic or a medium, when they're actually having communication, you would be able to notice the difference in their brain waves.
Well, one thing the Ryan Research Center has done, they're doing a couple of different things. They are, I want to get this correct, when they're bringing in energy healers and martial experts in martial arts, and actually measuring the emission of light photons when they're going into deep meditative states. And that is proving to be very fascinating because they are throwing off some sort of energy. And I may not have all the details right, but if you go to ryan.org, that information is there about that particular research project. And then they're also trying to do a near-death, an NDE experience for people who are trained to have, I'm sorry, not near-death experience. They're not going to always kill anybody. They're going to do out-of-body experiences with people who are trained to actually have those out-of-body experiences, and there are people who can do astral projection, I believe. And they're going to do some research with that, actually weigh them during their sessions and try to figure out what is happening physically during these events.
Yeah.
Sort of like the 23 grams after you die.
That whole thing. Even though that study the science has been found to be flawed, or was many years ago, but it still raises a very interesting point as to, like you said, to the weight of the human soul. And I have read about that, and what they're talking about with what you were talking about with the Ryan research, and they're basically energy workers.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, the kung fu masters would be focusing their what they call chi, and you're right, they're putting them in an entirely dark room with zero or such a low photon count in the room that any photon that is created will be in there, and it's actually them expelling them from their eyes. So this gets back to something too. Everybody has had that experience where you feel like somebody's just burning a hole in the back of your head looking at you. Well, we might have used to have laser beams when we were, before we were humans or whatever. In lives before, we may have had laser beams coming out of your eyes, and that's why you might feel that.
Well, we can definitely throw energy. We do create our own energy fields. I totally believe that, and I'm not even trying to be woo-woo about it. There are people you can look at, and they're just emitting like goodness and light, and there are people you look at and you become ill, and people carry little energy clouds with them. That's for sure.
And there's always the person you look at and just turn around and walk the other way.
Yeah. And, and you can walk into the room if you're having a bad day. You can walk into a room and kind of spread that ill intent or that awful feeling that you have. And before long, everybody around you at work is feeling the same. I work in a health clinic, so I see this every day. What that kind of negative or positive energy can do. I see it in a very tangible way.
Sort of like walking into a room after an argument.
Mm-hmm.
You can just feel it.
Yeah. It's a little bit scary, actually, because people can, I do believe, I think when people are thinking bad thoughts about you, you feel it sometimes. And it can, I do believe in protecting yourself from that kind of negativity, whether it's through prayer or meditation or shielding or whatever one does. It's becoming increasingly apparent to me that you do need to surround yourself with positivity the best way you can.
It's very true. Well, and it goes back to the old, the old sayings about just be kind, treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated. And if you think about treat everybody the way you'd want to be treated, nobody wants to be treated like crap.
Yeah.
Let's just say it like it is. So if you're constantly giving out good energy, that's what comes back to you.
Yeah. I know it sounds kind of new age and woo-woo when we say things like that, but it's really not. It's what's the golden rule in the Bible, right?
Exactly. Well, it's the golden rule in almost every religion that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, in some form or fashion. Everybody is, don't kill anybody, don't hurt anybody, don't sleep with anybody you're not supposed to sleep with, and
be nice to your mama
and be nice to your parents. Basically, that's what it is for everybody. It's phrased differently, the language is a little different, but in general, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, spread kindness, be merciful, and be compassionate.
And I don't think you should have to. I don't think you should have to give a weekly contribution to a business to have your salvation either. But that's just me.
Well, that's the whole institutionalization of religion, which is very different than the spiritual aspect of faith.
Yeah. Well, and see, that's something else too. That's an interesting topic, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too. One of the things that has, as of late, been popping up quite a bit is not only are people all of a sudden gifted, now everybody's a damn demonologist. How and with the fact with your Islamic background, okay, this is why I wanted to know this question. How can people claim to always have demons around when they're going to go into certain situations where the client may not even have that in their belief system? They could be Buddhist
Or atheist.
or an atheist, or even if you're Islamic, it's the jinn, but that's a totally different. Jinn is a very blanket term. Am I correct?
Well, the jinn are considered by some Muslims to be the sort of like interdimensional beings that have free will, that are made of some sort of, well, it says some kind of a plasma, probably, if you take it to literally mean that they are beings, and they can be of any faith that they choose to be. So the wisdom is that they can come into our realm when they want to because they're curious or somewhat mischievous. The folklore will suggest that only the bad jinn will come into our realm, but they're just like different, I don't know, they're like gnats, you know?
Wouldn't they be considered sort of like what the Irish, Scottish call elementals?
They could be. I've heard a lot of people look at it in that way. Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could, in terms of comparison. There are different ideas about the jinn, and some people would discount. Some Muslims would say they're not actual beings. But one thing about being a Muslim is that you have to believe in the unseen, which means you believe in the unseen divine, but that you also have to believe in the unseen created world, which would include things like angels and jinn. The concept of demons are different. But demons and demonology has its own sort of very historical evolution, even among Christian faiths. So,
correct.
you know, and they have different meanings at different times in history. And there's, you know, I do believe in negative energy. Just like there's positive energy, just like there's goodness, there's going to be darkness, because that's just the way, the nature of how the world is created. I'm not so sure that it always has to be demonic.
But good and evil, I guess that's my issue with it. Is it's just natural. It's not necessarily good or evil. It's natural. That's just nature.
It's just the balance of things.
And for people, I guess the point that bothers me the most about all these new demonologists is the fact that it's the fear mongering that most of them do, because they're appealing to somebody's base fears and just going from there. And that's where if you give me $5,000, I can lift that curse off of you and get that demon out of your body.
Hey, I have the perfect case. Remember that one?
Oh yeah, don't even.
Yeah, well, we know of someone who is now claiming to be a demonologist. That they were an investigator, and then the next week they were a demonologist. Went to a location, I think did 2 investigations there. Told the parents that their 17-year-old daughter was possessed, absolutely needed an exorcism, and they will contact them in 30 days to find out whether or not they want them to do that.
That's so unethical.
Thank you.
But
that kind of stuff, really, I wish, do they charge for it?
No.
I don't think they charge for it, but the whole point that you're telling someone she's possessed, she needs an exorcism ASAP, I'll give you 30 days and
that's
contact
child
you
endangerment.
back.
I mean, that kind of stuff should be reported to social services. I mean, especially if the minor is involved.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
Well, being 17, it's that borderline right there, because, I mean, some states.
True. I mean, and I see your point.
I could see if it was 12 or under. Oh, absolutely.
But what are they planning to do to her during the exorcism? I mean, what?
That's the whole point. That's the whole point. The people that we're talking about, they had no training in an exorcism.
No, so we don't know.
They read at most they read a pamphlet, and at the most they read a book. They have no school, or I almost said scholastic.
Now
they
did go to a lecture.
No, I see. That's what I'm saying. They might as well have read a pamphlet. That's
So
what I'm saying.
because what I have in mind, they're going to maybe restrain her and then.
Who knows what they would have done, or if they were just going to contact somebody else that might have been trained. But that's the other thing too that people need to understand is there are not that many, and they're not readily available. Trained exorcists. If
she was truly possessed, you do not wait 30 days to find out whether or not they want an exorcism.
That's right. But
that's so funny.
here's one that will even top that, and that's the glitter story.
Oh Lord, the glitter.
There's actually a group in Oklahoma. You're going to love this, John. I don't know if I told you this before. There's a group in Oklahoma. They believe that glitter confuses spirits and will force them to leave your home. So
what? What did you say?
Glitter.
Oh, I thought you said Twitter.
No, glitter.
Glitter.
Yeah, like art glitter.
So they send you out of your house. They sprinkle glitter all over your house to confuse the ghosts, and then they let you back in to clean it up.
So glitter is like demon repellent.
Or ghost repellent. It confuses the spirits, the glitter does.
So they leave because they're confused.
So you left somebody in your house because things were going on that you couldn't explain, and you come back and it looks like somebody beat up a stripper in your living room.
How did they come up with this hypothesis?
This is the reason
the
why.
Glitter theory.
This is the reason why when you ask us the state of the affairs, this is why we said it's disjointed and it's a little flaky right now. It's kind of like a biscuit.
The way my mind is trying to wrap around this is a lot of people say if you put up mirrors in your windows, it keeps spirits out. So I'm thinking they're assuming that because the glitter is shiny and reflective, maybe they see millions of, you throw it up and the ghost sees millions of themselves and it scares them. I don't know. I don't know their reasoning. This is just something my head is trying to figure out.
Could just be Oklahoma too.
Did it at least bless the glitter before they?
How many Catholic? Do you really think you can talk a Catholic priest into blessing a bottle of glitter?
I want to see that. That's a skit waiting to happen. That's a YouTube skit waiting to happen. Someone has to do that.
More cowbell.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's really bad if people now have glitter as a methodology.
Well, but see, that's
like a Lady Gaga video. I mean,
exactly.
Well, that goes with the group that went to Mineral Wells or Mineral Springs. That they're called the Ghosts something or another, but they all show up in teddies and stilettos.
Yeah, they do lingerie.
To
the lingerie
investigate.
Hunt, yeah. And Scott Grunwald, as a joke, several years ago, said he started investigating naked. If you know Scott, if you've ever met Scott,
I mean, he's a comedian. That's his spiel. That's the thing. That's what he does.
And he very seriously probably has investigated naked.
Probably.
But then you're going to get other people trying to do what Scott was trying to do naked, but they're not naked for that reason.
But these people are in stilettos and teddies, going up and down those marble steps.
Oh hell. That's just unsafe. It's just stupid.
And going down to the gentleman's pool and the whole 9 yards in stilettos, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just...
don't you think trying to get a TV show? Don't you think that these type of people are just trying to get a TV show?
Sure. Oh, sure.
Oh, absolutely. It's the black suburban syndrome all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the porn version.
Yeah. That's about the only thing that hasn't... that's the only thing I haven't ever seen.
Now, wait.
I've heard that it has, actually.
Yes, ma'am, it has. The one with the gel and the t-shirt. Yes.
With the what?
Well, I've heard
that's right.
A porn parody, and it's a night vision, and maybe everyone's wearing only black t-shirts and nothing on the bottom, and there's like, I love your equipment. I don't know.
And have you seen the average paranormal investigator? I mean, I'm very secure, but most people would not want to see me naked. Kim barely wants to see me naked. So I'm sure the average audience member does not want to see me naked running around.
Well, there could be a lot of money in paraporn. Paranormal romance and paranormal erotica is a big thing. Somebody needs to start paraporn.
It would bring a whole new term to Ghostbusters.
Yeah, who you gonna call?
Wow.
And it also makes sense. Don't ever cross the stream.
And
anyway.
never ask for a Scooby snack. Just say.
Yeah. Oh
But
my goodness.
honestly, there's somebody out there, I'm sure, who is thinking like this. I mean, if somebody can go throw glitter in somebody's house, all you gotta do is lie down on it and film. I mean, it's like the stage is being set, right?
Right.
It's kind of
Well, it's like them, they weren't the only ones investigating at Mineral Springs when they're running up and down
That's a whole other set of equipment they're going to be trying to put on the millimeter now.
stockings and bustiers. It's ridiculous. And the whole floor is all marble. There's no skid pads or anything. So one wrong move and you're a goner.
Well, there's two ways to look at this. I mean, I know that we're very intellectually interested in the how and the what and the why, but the other side of it is just pure entertainment, and there is some value in that. I can't say that there's a lot of research merit in these shows, but
Sure.
there's a lot of value in the entertainment because they have allowed local history to be featured, history of sites and sites that people would not have known about, and
Right.
local history. And in that sense, the entertainment industry is helpful in preserving these stories. And it's so hard to make that distinction. It's so hard to let ourselves enjoy that side of it while also really wanting to be good investigators. I mean, it's like a bad marriage.
I just hope
It really is.
I'm just and the only caution I want to give to our viewers and the people watching this in archive, please think about what you're watching. Make sure that if you know the history of a haunted location, and just because you see it on TV, if they start telling the history wrong, that doesn't mean you're wrong. That means they're probably wrong. So people need to be very careful about what they watch and how they think about it, because not everything that they put on the TV is completely 100% factual. Because it's for entertainment, it's not a research documentary, it's not put out for peer review, it's put out to sell Dove soap or whatever other commercial is shown in the middle of it. Duracell, Red Bull energy drink, whatever, Maxwell House coffee, whatever they're pitching in the middle of it, that's why that show is on air, not for some kind of scientific reason.
Well, and I will be one of the very few paranormal investigators, researchers who will say I actually do watch the shows. I watch them for the locations.
Right.
And it's, to me, that's fascinating when they got to go to Frankenstein's castle and Dracula's castle.
I mean, we
Places
never
I
get
will
to see
never
those things, otherwise.
Right.
And it certainly has, I write in my book, and I'm very open that the reason that I became aware of paranormal investigation was because of ghost hunters. So I can't say that I don't regret ever watching that show. I don't have a TV now. I haven't watched any show in a couple of years, actually. But I don't regret that at all because it truly did change my life. I mean, there aren't many developments I can say completely altered the course of my life, but becoming a paranormal investigator and by default then becoming a writer, and now I'm moving into digital storytelling through the skills I acquired as a paranormal investigator. It really profoundly altered my life, and I think a lot of people can say that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I have no problem saying I'm one of the guilty ones. Well, that, and there's one particular person that I want to see wet his pants one time on the air, so I'm hopeful.
And next investigation we go on that we're getting filmed, I've already decided I'm going to wear a T-shirt that's 2 sizes too small.
I bring some glitter too,
I might do that. I'm subject to do that.
Oh, don't get it. No, because our next investigation is HHL.
Yeah, well, that's true. I might not do that, but I mean, that, like I said earlier, when you'd asked, that's part of the reason. But people outside of the paranormal, people inside the paranormal that have spent any time or any effort in this, look at those situations that we were laughing at and making fun of. They'll look at those situations and go, okay, well, that goes on the idiot column.
Yes. It does. I wouldn't blame anybody.
But
for
people
thinking.
outside looking in go, what a bunch of nutbags, because to them, we're all the same. We're all the same.
Yeah.
You know, whether you're a ghost hunter, a paranormal researcher, a thrill seeker, whatever term you need to label yourself with so you can sleep at night.
Well, it's like the idiots who burnt down the plantation in Louisiana.
They weren't even ghost hunters. They were just a bunch of drunken kids.
They were just like kids.
Well, a couple of them were on teams, but they weren't there as a team.
Right.
And they started provoking, trying to stir things up, and when that didn't work, then they burnt down the plantation. But a lot of the people in the field are like, these are what gives us a bad name. No, that gives them a bad name, because if you read the article, it says they're not paranormal researchers, investigators. They're just a bunch of idiots who went down there.
Yeah, but it certainly puts fear into a lot of historical sites when they become aware of something, or it could put fear into historical sites. Like, we really want these people coming in. God knows we don't know what they're doing, and it was such a horrible thing, because these people destroyed history, destroyed a very valuable historical site just because they were stupid.
Yeah.
Just because they weren't getting. Basically, it was a grown-up temper tantrum.
Yes, and with pot and liquor.
Yeah.
Right, and fire.
Yeah, just bad
You
combination.
gotta have something to light your cigarettes with. Come on now.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But but that is the state. That is our state of affairs, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But with like we mentioned, good news. Very soon, there's going to be at least one show out there that, in our perspective, will be much more worth watching, more for a learning value than entertainment value, but it will also be entertaining.
And is that going to be on the? Is that the USA Network? What network is it?
Travel Channel.
It's on Travel Channel. Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, Destination America.
Yes,
Destination
that's
America.
it.
I would also like to mention that not only is she the author of the book they kept showing, nobody's shown this book.
I'll show it.
I got it.
Yay!
So you want to be a ghost? So you want to hunt ghosts?
Yes.
Right. Yes. So you want to hunt ghosts? Get the book. This gives you a plethora of different investigations done by many different people around the country and probably the world.
And will also save you some time, because you won't be repeating the experiments that have already been done.
Yeah, and you get to learn sort of the very basics, ABCs of kind of group management, and how to, if you want to do research-based investigations, one way to do it, and different perspectives. It's just kind of, and there's one thing I really like about this book is it has different personalities that we, the names that we hear a lot and what they've done, kind of a little bit, I think it's in here, who's who. So you have a little bit of, it's almost like a little encyclopedia, like who's who, who's done what. A little bit of that.
And if I really want to be a smart aleck, my experiments on page 214.
Yes, you definitely people need to look at that. I agree.
Yeah. And that's something people that are involved in the paranormal. If I had to pick one major fault that we have, well, other than the ego thing, the one major fault that I've had is that people do not study the history of the spiritualist movement or paranormal, whatever label you want to put on it. They don't know their history. So a lot of things that people think they're doing for the first time now, if they would go and do a little research, a lot of these things have already been done.
Yeah, there won't be any innovation until people kind of get past that first or second stage, which very few are doing.
But there are a lot of experiments in here that can be redone at the same locations by different people. And that's one thing that annoys me to death, too, is not a lot. There are some teams who, this is my property, you can't research here yet.
So that's still a thing. Is that still a thing?
Yeah, it really is.
That's just so stupid. I mean, I don't have any other. I wish I could provide some sort of grand, like, intellectual dialogue about that, but it's just stupid.
Yeah, well, it's just like it'd be like a gang of psychiatrists in Dallas or something, and they'd be doing drive-by shootings at other psychiatrists' office trying to have clients there. It just doesn't happen, but that's how people in the paranormal act.
Yeah.
But we're all in it for the same reason. If you get some great, wonderful evidence, some great, wonderful data, personally, I would want someone else to come in and do the same experiments to see what they get. If nothing else, it helps your case when you lay it out there.
Yeah, we absolutely need that. If we're going to claim to be scientific, then we absolutely need those kinds of investigations to actually earn our badge as scientists, or at least as researchers.
Well, and a lot of these experiments were done in public places to where you are able to. It's not my playground, you can't get on it.
Yeah. I just hope, 100 years from now, I was recently reading about William James, who's really kind of one of the people he was the founder of modern day psychology, but he was also an avid parapsychologist or psychical researcher, and he really gave a lot of his time to psychical research at the expense of being taken seriously by some of his peers. But he said, I don't know if we're ever going to get beyond that, get beyond the stage where we know there's something fascinating happening, but we can't really scientifically prove it. And that was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. So here we are again. Now, this time, more people than ever are going out and collecting data and doing all this fascinating work. And I just hope 100 years from now, we're not in the same position. I hope 100 years from now, we have something more to show for what we're doing.
There'll be a
phone
app. It'll be a phone app. You'll be able to talk. It'll be a talk to the dead phone app. You'll get it on. You'll get it on the iPhone.
For that.
Yeah, you'll get on the iPhone 27.
iPhone 27.
They'll be embedded as microchips in our heads by then.
Yeah. Yeah, you can just type you can just type in the air. You can just do the whole counting thing with your fingers and dial a phone.
Yeah.
But see, in 100 years, if you're a paranormal researcher, do your fingernails light up when you introduce?
We will be ITC devices. But
well, in 100 years,
I hope that well, what William said is maybe this is the nature of the search, is that it's always the search. We're never going to reach the destination.
Well, we will all reach the destination.
Well, quite literally, yes. But I mean, in terms of intellectually.
But you got to think too, Deanna. In 100 years, we're going to be the ones doing the EVP session.
That so they're doing the EVP session.
So don't think we won't be messing with people, because now there's fixing to be a whole generation of us die off. And we're going to come back and say.
What goes when they're dead?
Yeah.
Yeah. Before it's a handful. Now there's like thousands of us out there, and we know how to haunt people.
Well, I look forward to that.
I mean, think about it.
We'll probably appear as holograms at that point. I mean, EVP will be such a passé thing. We'll just be holograms.
I'm going to go with the whole Futurama thing. We're going to be heads in jars.
No, I think we'll be the really bored ones who start the poltergeist stuff. There'll be much more stuff floating around because.
Oh, you got to know, just the way the male ego is, when you pass over, unless you leave all that behind, if the male ego carries over, then there's male ghosts on the other side going, I can move that chair. Well, I can move that desk. No, I can slam that door. No, I can slam 3 doors.
You want to see that refrigerator make it down the basement step?
Right.
So you're saying the best evidence is yet to come. We just have to die.
Exactly.
Yeah,
just let us all pass away, and then we'll come back, and people will actually get to find out.
Well, I could go into why do people like J.B. Ryan? Why has he not come back and told us the secrets? And so maybe once we pass over, we'll understand why we can't give the secrets out. We can just throw refrigerators down the steps, but we can't really give the secrets out.
I would want to hear it from Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think Tesla would be able to sit back and go, this is why.
But Tesla didn't. He was not a fan of psychical research.
No, he was not. But Tesla also, in the race to develop the radio, was the first to mention hearing voices through what was his version of the radio, and there was nobody else broadcasting. So Tesla also, he may have not believed it, but he experienced it. Once again, it goes back to that personal experience part.
So did Benjamin Franklin.
There's a whole lot of people that did. It's all about perspective and how things got labeled. You know, I'm not even going to get started on the whole ancient aliens thing. I'm not even going to go there. That's a whole other 2 or 3 hour conversation there.
Yeah, that's beyond my experience for sure. I have not had an experience with ancient aliens yet, or with Sasquatch, unfortunately.
Well, you've met a Yeti.
You met him?
You met a Yeti.
I met a Yeti, yes, but I wasn't in it was in a well-dressed suit. I mean, what can I say?
Hey, you know, we Yeti are dapper.
Oh, please.
Please tell everybody your the link I've been putting up. How do you pronounce your blog?
It's DeonnaKellySayed.com. It's DeonnaKellisayed.
Okay.
He's got Love Inshallah.
I'm an editor of that site. It's a completely different part of my life, but I am an editor of that one editor of that site. And if you go to my blog, you can see I'm doing a lot of different things. I mean, this paranormal stuff is something I'm very proud of, but it's just one of those things like that in my life.
And they can find your books on
probably Amazon.com now. That's probably the best place, or any other site that sells books. You can probably find it at that site as well. I don't know if it's in shelves because it's been out a couple of years. You might find it at your Barnes and Nobles. It just depends. And they can find it at your store.
Yep. And it's on the top shelf. All my lovely ladies are on the top shelf.
Yep.
I have no gentlemen on the top shelf.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the paranormal really is a woman's world.
It truly is. A lot of people don't want to acknowledge that, but it truly is.
Well, I've got her books. I've got metaphysical books. I've got animal communication books, and I have Alien Legacy up there, all of which are complete. Plus, I have T.L. Jones's fictional paranormal books, all on the top shelf.
We're top shelf kind of people.
Absolutely.
Only the best at Metaluna Boutique and Stones.
That's right.
Well, Deanna, we have come to the end of our time. Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to catch up with you.
Always.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
I may be trying to set up a round table. It gets a little closer to Halloween. I might be contacting you to come back on a Friday night.
Well, yeah, sure. Just let me know, and if I'm available, I'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna put a brain trust together, and we're gonna let people know what's really going on.
Well, thank you. Well, have a lovely evening. Have a great weekend.
Hey, you too. And thank you so much for coming on.
And we're still waiting on the beatbox when he gets.
That's right. We haven't got.
My son's overseas, but when he comes back, I really have to get him to sit down and do that. He's really quite good now.
Yeah,
He was really good then.
He's even better now.
Oh,
really
and I would like to clarify. Technically, we've known her for 6 years because she was our 5th guest when we started this show almost 6 years ago.
That's right.
God, you guys are, I mean, you're intrepid.
Yeah,
we don't give up.
Either
easy.
that or we're slow learners. One of the two. One of the two. Real quick.
Well, have a lovely weekend, and I want to thank everyone for listening, either now or later in the archives.
And buy the books.
Yes, buy my books.
Real quick before we get out of here, if you're going out investigating this weekend, be careful.
Be safe.
Protect yourself.
Halloween's coming up. Be nice to black cats. Seriously.
Really.
Be smart and be nice.
Yeah.
Right. And don't assume everybody's a witch. If you're going to ask me if I'm a witch, I hope you're asking the cashier at Walmart too. Just saying.
Yeah. And with that,
is needing some time.
So
Good
okay.
night.
Good night, everybody, and
Night.
be safe.